Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. So, it's a lot going on, man. In the NBA, it's a lot going on. I mean, it's a lot going on. Okay, the first thing we have to talk about is Chris Paul. Chris Paul's going to be entering safety protocols, health and safety protocols, to start the Western Conference Finals, which is one of the most cruel things I think I've ever heard in my life in terms of sports. It's one of the most cruel things I've ever heard. Because this is somebody who's had a lot of issues staying healthy when it matters most. Um, I'm talking one playoff series after the next, pretty much from his entire career, has been about him not being healthy physically. And here he is going into the Western Conference Finals, probably with the best chance he's ever had at winning a title. And the health and safety protocol situation rears its ugly head once again. That's been the story of the whole season. Why wouldn't we think it would affect something like this in the playoffs? I do look at Chris Paul as head of the Players Association, and I say to him, why haven't you been vaccinated? Um, I know there are a lot of people who don't believe that they should be vaccinated. I have, for one, not been vaccinated, so I'm not here to cast aspersions on people who haven't. But when you have certain responsibilities, and these are the solutions to keeping such situations like this from occurring to derail you from those responsibilities, it would probably be the best investment in yourself to assure that you don't have to face health and safety protocols. Now, if that means taking a vaccine, maybe that's the way to go. I like I said, maybe not. You know what I mean? Maybe you believe that it's poison and you don't want to put it in your body, and there you have it. But who's let down in the situation? His legacy, first and foremost. Um, because he's going to miss this series and they're going up against a real Utah team, and Utah's going to beat them if they don't have him, period. Or the Clippers if the Clippers win it. But we'll talk about them later. There's something to that. But Chris Paul obviously is going to be the catalyst for what they do in success. Him and Devin Booker and the collective of players that they have worked very hard to get to this point. They're all healthy. They're all ready to go. They're probably favored to win the next series, and their leader is going to be missing multiple games. Now, the way this is supposed to be set up is he's supposed to be able to test every single day, and when he clears, he should be fine. So from what I understand, from what that tells us is that he has COVID. That's what that tells us, because we're waiting for him to have clear testing. So obviously the tests were not clear. So at this point, that's just what it is. You just have to follow the protocol just like everyone else has all season long. I think it has affected every team, really. Every team in the league has been affected by that. So unfortunately, Phoenix has been hit with it now. At the number one time when they don't need it, probably the least ideal situation to happen to anybody, in terms of, well, we'll get into it, but you be the judge and tell me if this is the most unfortunate of the events. The second thing we want to talk about is Kawhi Leonard's health. He hurt his knee yesterday, and it looks like it's going to keep him out. Well, he told his team that it's going to keep him out for 2 games, the rest of the series, more than likely, definitely the next game. And with Kawhi Leonard, I mean, it's like, if it's a real injury, nothing to say, get well soon. But we've seen this with Kawhi. I've heard the pundits say the same thing, so I don't want to kind of just piggyback off their points, but it is what it is. Kawhi Leonard has had a history of protecting himself from injury, sometimes in situations that maybe are inconclusive to the rest of us. That situation in San Antonio being the main thing. I mean, he was out for almost 2 years, and there really wasn't a whole lot of understanding of what to make of his injury. And then, of course, with that has come some things that have happened with the Clippers, where he's kind of prioritized his health in terms of load management, and obviously that has affected the team in terms of them being able to have chemistry, playing with Paul George, et cetera, et cetera. So this is one of those situations where Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers have been the comeback kids all season long, all playoffs long rather. They go down 0-2 and then they come back and tie it up, and this series is no exception. And Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are playing great. They were able to get something out of Marcus Morris in the last game too. So if those three are playing like that, they are favored to probably beat the Utah Jazz. But I think the problem is, without one of those 3 guys, I don't think they're favored to win any games in this series. So It's like this. Can Paul George go off and do what KD did yesterday? Yeah, he's talented enough to do it, believe it or not. He is. He's talented enough to do that. But do we believe in him like we believe in KD? Of course not. So we expect the Clippers to keep going home, unfortunately. But Paul George, listen, Paul George is more than capable. That's the thing. Can he catch fire? Of course. But can he go 1 for 8 and that'll be it? Yes, that can happen too. And the latter is more likely, unfortunately, based on his history. So this is devastating for the Clippers. Obviously, they are looking to try to get to the finals for the first time in their history, the Western Conference Finals for the first time in their history, and they're 2 games away. And it's looking like that's not going to happen because Utah is getting their horses back. It looks like Mike Conley's coming back. Donovan Mitchell's now fully healthy. And actually, he hurt himself in that last game. So we'll see if that balances itself out some. If they don't have Donovan, that'll help the Clippers kind of balance it out. But unfortunately, I think he is playing for them. Unfortunately for the Clippers, he is playing. And that will tell the story. Because I think this is one of those games where a guy like Donovan Mitchell's going to smell blood. Oh, no Kawhi? Oh, for sure. I'm going for 50. And KD just went for 50. I actually expect Donovan Mitchell to go for about 50 points. So look for that. Look for that. If he's healthy. If he's not healthy, then, like I said, balance it out. But I don't know. He hurt himself, but he said he was going to be fine. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. The next thing I want to talk about is a couple coaches got fired. A couple coaches are going to be out. The first one I want to talk about is Stan Van Gundy of the Pelicans. That's the right move. He only had 1 year with that team, but it was very obvious from the moment he was hired that wasn't a good fit because of the youngsters that he has and because of the imbalance of the roster as it pertains to spacing. They just didn't have enough shooting. They had too much clogging going on, and he's not the guy that you want as the voice for young players. As someone else mentioned in one of the videos that I saw, this will be Zion's 3rd coach in 3 years. I don't want to jump to any conclusions in regards to what Zion's will be once he comes around to free agency, but I can tell you what I would do, the exact same thing Anthony Davis did. I'm leaving. The Pelicans are going to have to prove that they can put together a real team around a superstar. They have yet to do that. Anthony Davis's teams were never good enough, and Zion Williams' teams don't even fit him. So as far as I'm concerned, David Griffin has his work cut out for him, and time is running out. So we'll see. They're going to have to get this right with this coach. They're going to have to get this right, the coach, and they're going to have to make some changes to that roster to create more space for Zion to work and get more shooting on that team and figure out what they're going to do with Lonzo, etc. They got work to do. But firing the coach was the right move. And the next coaching situation that had opened up is the Washington Wizards position. Scott Brooks is going to be leaving Washington. Some people are surprised by that. Because the Washington Wizards overachieved dramatically this year. Russell Westbrook played fantastic. They made the playoffs. There's a lot to like about the Washington Wizards, but Scott Brooks has been a flawed coach the entire time. I'm just going to be honest. I've never been a Scott Brooks guy. When I used to watch him with the Thunder, he was the problem, in my opinion. They just didn't have enough creativity offensively for them to have had as many weapons as they had. You got Westbrook, KD, James Harden, Reggie Jackson in his prime, and you couldn't get them a championship. Like that was wild, bro. And a lot of the problem that they were having was just the cohesiveness of the runs, not the runs, the offense that they were running, and that was a Scott Brooks thing. He goes to Washington, same issues up until this year. He gets Russell Westbrook back. That camaraderie between him and Russell Westbrook is rekindled, and you're getting the best out of Russell Westbrook. So for Westbrook, this may not be an ideal situation because he and that coach actually, they have chemistry and he gets the best out of them. However, for the betterment of the team, we've already seen Scott Brooks at his worst. We already know what the team looks like when Westbrook isn't out there and Scott Brooks is running the team. We've had a healthy year with Russell Westbrook this year. We're not going to have that much riding on Westbrook next year if I'm the Wizards. We're not counting on him to stay healthy all year. We're not counting him to play that well next year. So that means you need a coach who can get in there and get something out of those other guys. They did some good things picking up Gafford, doing that Wizards move. They shaved off some fat of their roster. So I think the Wizards are headed in the right direction. This coaching hire is going to be very important. But I like their situation right now as it pertains to them going in the right direction. Firing Scott Brooks was the right move in my opinion, and that is the end of that conversation for me. So now, for me, looking at all of those situations, the most unfortunate one, of course, would be Chris Paul, because at the end of the day, he's healthy. He is healthy, man, and his team is playing well. They made it the first team to the conference finals in the Western Conference, and it just looks like he's going to have to miss some games. He's going to have to miss probably the first 2-3 games. And unfortunately enough, if the Utah Jazz win their series against the Clippers, they're going to be starting that series in Utah. So those are road games that Chris Paul is going to miss. So that's that. Also, pay attention to the Nets. Of course, they're dealing with Kyrie Irving's situation. James Harden is not healthy, but he's out there playing. KD is going to have to continue to score 50 for the Nets to win. I think because he did it last night, people are kind of sighing a breath. They're breathing a sigh of relief. But to be completely honest with you, KD gonna have to do that about 11 more times to get his team where they need to be. Because if James Harden ain't gonna be right, Kyrie ain't gonna be there. The same problem he had going into that game yesterday is the same problem he gonna have going into the next one, and so on and so forth. So all this talk about all the Nets, we wrote them off too early. All the Nets, that man did that one time. Probably about 11 more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not counting on that, because I know that Achilles injury, you can't be playing 48 minutes a game on that. I don't care if he looks great or not. If you want him to last, he can't do that. You do not want him doing that, because if he ends up doing that too much in these playoffs, he's going to wear down, and that will carry over to next season. It will. I am telling you. They need to monitor him. Do not ride him like they rode him last night and expect this to be successful for the Nets. It won't work. I'm telling you, it won't work. Jeff Green, you deserve to be mentioned. You played amazing, and I neglected to mention how well Jeff Green played in that game, being the second punch for KD. Question, do you expect Jeff Green to do that again? I don't. The Nets in trouble. The Nets are in the same amount of trouble they was in the beginning of yesterday's game right now, because they are still undermanned. They are still going up against a good defensive team like the Bucks, who have several players in slumps right now, and they're still very much in this series. Jrue Holiday has played one of the worst series of his career. He's got to step his game up for the Bucks. Somebody needs to say it. He needs to step his game up. I sat up here and said, if James Harden and Dinwiddie wasn't able to come back early and no Kyrie Irving, this is going to be the Jrue Holiday show. He has been nothing but disappointing to me. I haven't seen the Jrue Holiday that I expected to see in these playoffs, or for the Bucks for that matter. He just hasn't been himself, and he's healthy, so he needs to step his game up. Is it Father Time catching up to Jrue? I don't know, but he needs to come out with one of them 30-point, 10-assist games that I know he's capable of, because he ain't playing like the Jrue Holiday from New Orleans. I don't know where that guy is, but he needs to show up for the Bucks, and he needs to do that in the next game. So that's one of the things I wanted to say too. He ain't playing like himself, and I'm one of those people that ride for Jrue Holiday, but he ain't making me look good right now, man. He's not. He should be out there dominating for real. So, and another thing I wanted to mention was the Hawks. The Hawks have found a way to win games that they're not supposed to win. That Game 4 game that they won, they ain't supposed to win that game. They're outmatched by the Philadelphia 76ers, in my mind, when Joel Embiid is out there, but they're still finding ways to win, and that's a dangerous, dangerous thing. I just want to point that out. Everybody's paying attention to all the teams everywhere, but the only one who ain't dealing with no injuries is the Hawks right now. Take that for what it's worth. And they are still alive. That series 2-2, they play tonight. So while, like I said, if Joel's out there, in theory, the Hawks are playing from behind. They are playing against a team that's better than them so long as Joel's out there, because he's going to make Clint Capella null and void, and Clint Capella is the edge that the Hawks have on every team they play. So, to me, I still have Philadelphia with the edge at this point. But if Atlanta continues to find ways to win games against Philadelphia, they're going to win the series, obviously. I mean, that's redundantly speaking, but what I'm saying is they're finding ways to win games that they shouldn't be winning. That's the emphasis of what I'm saying. They're finding ways. So as long as that continues to be the case, this series drags out, and that bodes very, very bad for the Philadelphia 76ers. Because even if they win this series, If it drags out to 7 games, you understand that that's more games that Joel Embiid has to try to dominate. Just like KD, it's more games where he has to play big minutes and play great on that knee, because he also has a knee injury that we've discussed. So, hey, NBA, this is what you sign up for, man. When you do all this protocol, stuff, when you do all that you've done and condensing the schedule and all that nonsense, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have more injuries than you can handle, and that is exactly what we're seeing here in the NBA. Injuries galore. Unnecessary injuries to very high-profile basketball players. That's why we have the parity that we're enjoying here. It's not because there's real parity in the league. It's because ain't nobody healthy. So it's from what I'm seeing, it doesn't have anything to do with who the better team is. It's about who's going to make it to the end. Who can survive through the process of all of this environment. That's who's going to win the championship. Right now, there's no front runner. There's literally no front runner amongst any of these teams. Yesterday, it looked like Phoenix. Without Chris Paul, Phoenix ain't doing nothing. Maybe it's Utah. Maybe it's Atlanta. Maybe it's Philly. Maybe it's Milwaukee. I'm not in love with any of these teams. So all of them can win the championship. Any of them, rather, can win the championship. And at this point, I'm not leaning toward anyone. There's just no front runner whatsoever. My name is BDF44. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out.